Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If I have gentlemen on the call, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Tonight I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about hypothyroid and my journey within hypothyroid. And so thank you again so much for being on this call. This is my first time really doing this, and I'm really excited to have a lot of you here. Okay, so my name is Claudia Solorio, and I have actually been living with hypothyroid for 20 years. So first I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, just so that you understand kind of where I'm coming from. And basically I've been dealing with this for a really long time. I do want to let you know that I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm basically just here to tell you what has worked for me. You know, what I have found over the years has just really helped me. All right. So I'm going to go on with who I am and how I've dealt with hypothyroidism. I was diagnosed at 14 years old. I'm currently 34. So I've been living with hypothyroid for 20 years. When I was diagnosed at 14 years old, the doctors put me on these steroid medications for 2 years because I was significantly small to the point where I could actually be considered a little person. So in order for me to fully grow, the doctors gave me some steroid shots every month for 2 years. And then they also put me on thyroid medication, which helped me grow and develop normally, or so they say normally. So that was my first experience with hypothyroidism. I really didn't understand it as a child. I just knew that I had to take this medication every day for the rest of my life. Not sure if any of you out there have hypothyroidism, but if you do, you know that this is a lifelong disorder, and we do have to take our medication every single day. Ultimately, the weight was a big issue for me as a child and as an adult. It still is. It's still something that I struggle with. But it's always been very, very difficult for me to lose weight, and it was really easy for me to gain weight. I struggled a lot with depression as an adolescent. To say the least, I mean, I struggled with suicidal thoughts. And I really didn't know where any of that came from because I came from a good home, good parents, I had good grades. I didn't know where my symptoms were coming from, and I didn't know why I was so sad. In college, I was diagnosed with ADHD because I struggled in my classes. I ended up graduating somehow, but I did struggle with supposedly ADHD because I couldn't really concentrate. Later on, I realized that all had to do really with my brain fog that I had going on. I just couldn't focus, I couldn't concentrate, and the doctors thought it was ADHD. I've struggled a lot with the puffy face, puffy hands, if you see in the picture there. I had a lot of swelling. Not only was I overweight, but I had a lot of swelling. And I was really, for a long time, I was just really clueless about my illness. I'm not sure if any of you have struggled with that, where you're diagnosed with something and you're like, what is this? I don't know. You didn't even know it was impacting your life so much. So again, like, it was slow weight loss. Throughout my young adult life, I struggled a lot with just not knowing where all these different symptoms were coming from. I was forgetful, I was clumsy, I still am, but it was definitely worse. And just this feeling of like not being able to focus. Ultimately, really the biggest issue that I've had, or I think the thing that has impacted me the most, was my miscarriage about a year ago. And I'm not sure if it has to do anything with my illness or not, but I definitely know that the day that I had my miscarriage, I actually got a call from my doctor saying that I urgently had to go to an endocrinologist to get my thyroid checked because my levels were dangerously low. So if any of you out there are thinking of getting pregnant or are pregnant and you have hypothyroidism or think you might have it, I definitely encourage all of you to go and see an endocrinologist and really get that figured out and make sure your levels are good. So ultimately, I have found clarity. There is good news. You don't have to suffer with all of these symptoms that hypothyroid gives you, and I'm going to teach you how to do that, all right? So who is this webinar for? This webinar is for anyone who's already been diagnosed with hypothyroid, anyone who thinks they might have hypothyroid because of symptoms, and also for partners, family members, friends, or anyone who works with someone with hypothyroidism, because it is important that you understand your loved one or the person that, that's around you. Oh, I'm sorry. So what is hypothyroidism? I went over some of the symptoms that I struggled with, but here's basically what it is, all right? It's an underactive thyroid disease, which is actually a pretty common disorder. You're not alone. Basically, your thyroid gland does not make enough thyroid hormone for your body. And it's located at the lower part of your neck, and it kind of feels like a butterfly. So if you've ever seen the logo for hypothyroidism with a butterfly, it's because that's how it kind of feels down here. And usually they can check on your neck and see if it's swollen or not. So the hormones from this gland affect almost every part of your body. They affect your heart, your brain, your muscles, and your skin. It controls your metabolism, which affects your temperature, your heartbeat, and how well you burn calories. If you don't have enough hypothyroid hormone, your body process basically slows down, hence you feel really, really sluggish, right? What are the symptoms? The symptoms are fatigue, and I don't mean like you're just tired. I mean like if you have things to do, the list just looks like you'd rather burn the house down. All right, it's extreme chronic fatigue where you feel like you just cannot get up and function. You're very sensitive to the cold. You struggle with constipation. You have dry skin. So if your legs and arms and hands are dry and itchy, that has to do with your thyroid. Really unexplained weight gain. And I want to say something about the weight gain. Okay, supposedly doctors say that there should only be a 10-pound weight gain, but there's so much more that contributes to the weight gain, which is the fatigue, the depression, and all the other symptoms that you're facing that add to that weight gain, all right? The puffy face, you have elevated cholesterol levels, your muscles ache, you have tenderness, stiffness, like you feel like if you even have the energy to get up and work out, it kind of feels like you can't move, you can't jump, you can't do certain things because of your muscles and your joints. You have irregular menstrual periods, thinning hair, so a lot of us lose our hair. We struggle with symptoms of depression and anxiety. You have impaired memory and brain fog. And again, I want to go back to the depression, anxiety, and brain fog. A lot of the times people are misdiagnosed, and they diagnose people with depression, generalized anxiety, or ADD or ADHD, and it's really just because your thyroid levels are completely off and they need to get regulated. So some of the ones that are just huge, like I had said before, are those of depression, the brain fog, and the weight gain. Really the symptoms, basically what I'm trying to tell you is you're not crazy. These symptoms really do impair daily life. It's difficult to get up and go to work. It's, if you have kids running around the house and a kitchen to clean and, you have to make the bed and all these different things, just not only is that just normal stress for anyone, but it really just feels like you can't do a thing about it. The brain fog is really there. You feel like you can't think, you can't concentrate. Again, people get misdiagnosed with depression. And this struggle with weight loss almost, I don't know if any of you have felt this, but it almost makes you feel like, what am I doing wrong? I've been doing everything and I can't lose this weight. and it's because it does make it more difficult, all right? So after you've been diagnosed, it's really important that you educate yourself on all the different symptoms, on ways to heal yourself, on supplements, on food, and questions to ask. I really believe in you being your biggest advocate. So ask questions, ask a lot of them. Find the right doctor. So you need to find an endocrinologist and go through them like a deck of cards. I mean, if a doctor isn't giving you the right answers, or if they're not answering your questions, or they're making it difficult for you to get the medication you need, I highly encourage you to be your biggest advocate and find the right doctor for you. The next step is to take the right lab test. So when you go to the doctor, they usually just want to take this one little blood test, and then they either diagnose you with borderline, or they tell you your levels are fine and that nothing's wrong. I'm here to tell you that it is your right to ask for every single test that you want. So you need to ask for the entire thyroid panel, and it includes the TSH, the FT3, and the FT4. That's all a bunch of numbers, but your doctor will know what that means, okay? Go and learn about the different medications and supplements that there are out there to help you have a healthier thyroid. I, for one, have always taken levothyroxine. For my thyroid people, you guys know what that is. And some other people swear by Armorol, which, I struggle with pronouncing that name, but it's a more natural form of medication, and it didn't work for me, you know, so you need to find out what works for you, okay? And another thing is to really talk to your close family about your struggles. So your husband, your partner, your best friend, really so they understand when you're having one of those off days where just nothing seems right, you're bumping into walls, you forget everything, you're kind of moody. It's important that the people that are closest around you really know what's going on, so that, you know, they can kind of pinpoint the fact that this is not you doing any of this on purpose. It's because you're having a bad day. And lastly, really work to just begin to heal your own body. And there are things that you can do on top of the medication to begin to feel better again. So again, like I said, take your medication. Please take your medication every single day. Do not forget to take your medication. The way I used to refer to this before, it's like the chicken and the egg, like what came first, because I was so forgetful that I'd forget to take my medication. But if I forgot to take my medication, then I'd be forgetful. Set reminders on your phone, tell your roommate or, you know, your partner if they can remind you. Make sure to take it between a half an hour to an hour after you eat. Before you eat. Don't take it with dairy, and don't take it with caffeine. So don't take that pill with a cup of coffee, okay? So I want to talk to you guys about fueling your body. You really need to start putting the right things in your body, okay? And food is fuel. So in general, a lot of these foods you would think are good for anyone, but for us, I'm not gonna go into all the medical stuff because I'm not a doctor. These are just the things that I know have worked for me. All right. So these raw veggies have a certain enzyme in them that don't allow us to produce more thyroid hormones. So some of those are Brussels sprouts, kale, spinach, and cabbage. And I will send you guys some more information with a whole detailed list of more examples of those vegetables. But if you're going to eat any of these vegetables, I highly suggest that you cook them or steam them. You can still eat them. They're still good for you, but you need to cook them. Eating them raw is not good for our thyroid. Also, these raw nuts like almonds and cashews and peanuts, you can roast them and you can still eat them, but just not raw. So I don't know if any of you have heard of hypothyroid patients going gluten-free, and it is the truth. When I don't have gluten, my body just feels so much better. So a lot of those grains are wheat and rye. There's also some fruits that aren't good for us, which are strawberries, grapes, peaches, and wine. I know, sorry. Avoid soy, so soybeans, soy milk, and soy products. Any processed food, it just has so many chemicals that don't let our thyroid really function at its optimal level. And green tea, this is so crazy because so many of us struggle with weight gain. And how many of us have heard that green tea helps us lose weight? It's always out there, right? The green tea pill this, take green tea, green tea, green tea. No, not for us, not for people with hypothyroid. It also has something in it that doesn't allow us to have our thyroid function at its full potential. Fish with high levels of mercury, so that also includes salmon, but the farm-raised ones. So you can do some research and find what fish has the lowest level of mercury, and that's okay. Dairy, so sorry, gotta say goodbye to the creamer, the milk, the cheese. It also does not let our thyroid function. And caffeine and alcohol also. I'm not saying I don't have a cup of coffee here and there, and I'm not saying I don't have a glass of wine or I don't go out for drinks, but really if you want optimal health, these are the things that you need to stay away from. So next thing is exercise. So I know, the first thing you're gonna say is, how can I exercise if I'm so freaking tired? So beginning, if you haven't really exercised before, I would highly suggest doing stretches. So I'll also provide you guys with different stretches that you can do, but stretches at night or stretches in the morning, anything to really get that blood flowing in your body, okay? For those of you who already do some type of exercise, like you go for walks and things like that, yoga and Pilates is great because it's not high impact. It's increasing your strength. It increases your metabolism. And it's no jumping, no running. It's basically just a flow. I'm really enjoying Pyo right now. It's a workout that I do that it really just makes me sweat, and I'm not jumping around anywhere, and it's great, right? It's pretty low impact. And if you are just pushing yourself and you've been working out, weightlifting is also a really great way, because we all know that lifting increases your metabolism. And it burns more fat after the fact. So after you've already worked out, weightlifting definitely burns those extra calories after you're done, all right? So de-stress your brain and body. Again, I know that this sounds difficult, but it's really important that you take the time before bed, because many of the times people with hypothyroidism are super tired during the day and then you can't sleep at night. So it's important that before bed, you shut things off anywhere between like half an hour or so before you go to bed, half an hour to an hour before you go to bed. And you really just start to shut down. Some of the things that you can do are prayer, meditation, do some personal development, anything that really gives you peace, just inner peace, so that you can begin to calm down. I didn't believe in them before, but recently I've been using an essential oil. It's a lavender essential oil that I put kind of behind my ears and on my wrists before bed. And it's like magic. It calms me down and it helps me sleep. So if you guys are struggling with sleep, that's also another thing that you can do. Communication is definitely key. Communicate with the people around you. Find a support group. Find people to help keep you on track. I have amazing friends and family who understand what I'm going through, who understand kind of my ups and downs, and they really keep me on track and they keep me accountable. I feel like because I check in with them, I feel like I have to get my workout in, I have to eat right, and it just makes me a happier person too. Be patient with your body and your health. This is not an overnight thing. It takes a lot of time. especially when you begin detoxing from gluten and soy and caffeine. Your body's not going to feel better immediately. Again, it even takes time when you're taking your medication. It takes time for everything to normalize. So you want to be patient with your body and listen to it, keep track of it, keep track of your symptoms so that you know the things that make you feel good and you know the things that make you feel not so good. Set a lot of reminders, have a calendar, just for the things that you need to do, because we can be really forgetful and, you know, we have this brain fog that's going on. So set reminders on your phone, whatever works for you, sticky notes, a person, you know, if you need to have somebody to help keep you accountable, that's where those friends come in, or your partner, to give you reminders, even just to take your medication every day. If you can, get a way to take a nap. I know that sounds kind of impossible for a lot of us, but if you can go and take like a 15-minute cat nap to just rest your brain, that will help too. Also, just love who you are. I know that a lot of the times with hypothyroidism, we don't like how we feel because we feel so tired and so sluggish, and the weight gain is there, and we feel like, you know, we forgot this and that, and we begin to feel really, really bad about ourselves. You know, we forget our son's appointment with the teacher or whatever it is. You know, you can start to feel really, really guilty about all those things, and you need to forgive yourself, because not all of it is just because you wanted to forget. It's because you're struggling with something. So really just love who you are. You know, do the little things that you can to remind yourself, but just accept that this is something that we struggle with, and do your daily best to work with it. And this is me. Like, that was at my heaviest. I was 200 pounds about 3 years ago, over 200 pounds. I was depressed. I had a lot of anxiety, really low self-esteem. I really thought there was absolutely no hope. Like, I thought this was going to be me forever. I was a size 16. That dress is actually size 18, because, you know, bridesmaids dresses come smaller, bigger, whatever it's called. Until I found my way, until I found really something that kept me accountable. I started eating clean. I really started to take my exercise seriously and my illness seriously, because sometimes I wouldn't take my medication. I didn't take it seriously, you know. But after I started taking my medication every single day, I took my nutrition seriously. I worked out about 4 to 6 times a week. You know, I stayed accountable to my group of friends. That is when the magic started to happen. And I lost a total of over 80 pounds. In that last picture on the right, I was a size 2. I went down to 120 pounds. And I actually maintained that weight for a while until last year, where I had my miscarriage. And it wasn't the pregnancy or the miscarriage necessarily that made me like gain the weight. It was because I was depressed. My thyroid levels were all messed up because of the miscarriage, and the hormones were all wrong. And that's really, I stopped staying accountable every day with my friends who helped me, you know, who helped remind me to work out, until I found my way again and really started to take it seriously and started to be accountable and started eating right. So basically, I'm just telling you, there's hope. You really can find health. There's all these different diets out there. There's autoimmune, paleo, there's all these crazy things out there. And for hypothyroid specifically, those are the foods that the foods that I listed are the foods that you need to stay away from. But I highly also suggest that you go to the doctor and you see if you have any other disorder like PCOS, Hashimoto's, adrenal fatigue, or autoimmune disease, because that's going to give you some more information about anything else that you need to cut out. but there is hope. You're going to feel better, but you have to stay committed. You really, really need to stay committed to yourself. That goes back to just loving yourself and loving the body that you're in, and just, you know, doing your best every day. So I wanted to say thank you. It's kind of the conclusion of today's webinar. Just thank you to everyone who's been on the call. I really hope to have more of these with more detailed, specific questions answered. If you can please comment on any of the pictures or message me on Facebook or email me with any questions that you might have, that would be great. Hashtag it MyHealedWings. And I would be glad to answer your questions, and I would be glad to host another webinar answering those specific questions for you. So I hope that all of you really enjoyed today's webinar. I appreciate your feedback. If you have any other comments or anything, that would be great as well. So thank you, all of you, and really I hope that you take care of yourself and stay committed, right? Bye, guys. And